Okay, so straight off the bat, one thing about me is that I love the endless possibilities of literature. I love the amount of stuff that I have ahead of me to read, the amount of stuff I already have read, and I can reflect back on. I love when things just affect me in such significant ways. There are so many books that I have read that have just had such a big impact on me and led me in my pursuit of literature in my current bachelor degree. I am doing a major in literary studies, and I hope to be an English teacher one day. And all these books have influenced me to consider that career path and continue to study in university. There are literally so many amount of books that I want to read, and I've already got this whole bookshelf, and it goes further down, and I have a little book trolley over here that you can't really see. Oh god, now I have to fix this. Yeah, so I currently own around 200 books. I've only read half of them, and I continue to keep buying more. So I think this addiction will go on forever and it will never end. Out of all these books that I have read and haven't read, there are a couple that really stand out to me that I think everyone should read. Actually, no, I don't think everyone should read these books. Out of all these books I own and all the books I've read, there are a couple that I think just really stand out and definitely made a change in my life. And I'd love to share those with you today. I feel like I'm not going to surprise anyone with this first option, but the first one is The Catcher in the Rye by J.D. Salinger. Yes, I know this is a red flag book. Yes, I know it's in every video ever, but it's there for a reason. It's really good, I promise. I love Catcher in the Rye. I first read it when I was year 10 or 11 in high school, and I remember just associating myself with Holden Caulfield so much with this sincere hope to just preserve youth that he has with his little sister, and the feeling that everyone opposes. I know that's the crutch of the novel. He calls everyone posers. What do they call them posers? He calls them something else, doesn't he? Let's see. This is editing Alicia. He calls them phonies. I don't know why I thought it was posers. It's definitely phonies. For one of my top books, I definitely know how to get the most iconic line wrong. It's been a while since I read it. I forgot the exact thing he calls everyone. But I will say that when I read this, it definitely pushed me more towards classic literature and wanting to explore just the literary canon. I'm aware that this book does have some stigma. Holden Caulfield is a whiny man. I agree. But I just love it so much because it captures the feeling of being young and realizing all the shitty things about the world and having that angsty attitude that I think a lot of people have and then cringe back at. There's just something so universal about this book that I feel like everyone who reads it can get something out of it. I understand why it's assigned text in America. In Australia, I've never heard of a school putting this on a book list. But if they did, I would gladly go to that school and read this because it's just so good. Another thing about The Catcher in the Rye is that it changed the way that I approach books and I approach literature. Before this, I was kind of just reading here and there random things that I'd see online be recommended to me. But I think once I got into this book, it really led me down a path of seeking similar things. After I read this, I'm pretty sure I read The Great Gatsby and I read The Picture of Dorian Gray and Dracula. I know there was a nothing like this book, but they did push me to pursue more classic lit, which I'm really glad I did because I found a real big passion in that subject. Another thing I love about this book is that everyone either hates it or loves it. I've never seen someone go, it's okay. Everyone is either I am a passionate lover of this book. This is my number one, ride or die. Or they're I literally hate Holden Caulfield and I want this book to burn. That's one of the things I love about it. And one of the funny stories I had this a nurse come in. I had this little injury. She had to fix it. She came into my room. She saw all my books just chilling here, and she's I used to love to read, but I really hate that book, Catcher in the Rye. And I thought it was really hilarious because when you go in my room, you can see I have a Catcher in the Rye poster just chilling here, so that was very interesting. I need to stop moving around this tripod. This video is going to be in 100 different angles. Okay, second book. This second book is a book that I didn't even think I would like, let alone carry with me so far and continue to think about it nearly every day. But my second book is Gravity's Rainbow by Thomas Pynchon. I know it's such a random choice that you wouldn't expect from me, but like, I love this book. This book did things to my brain, did things to me that I can't. Basically, I read this book fresh out of high school during my first semester of uni. It was either during the break or like during the first semester, but it was no really like turbulent time in my life. And first of all, I should explain the plot actually. So Gravity's Rainbow has a really obscure plot. The character Tyrone Slothrop, is that how you pronounce it? Yeah. Tyrone Slothrop has this like sort of power where his erections can tell where V8 bombs are going to be landing. And you follow him on like little journeys around where his dick takes him to find these. It sounds crude and disgusting. It is actually a really crude and disgusting book. It's not for the weak. There are parts of it where I'm like, I wanted to throw up reading, but it's a good book. Strange concept, amazing execution. This is probably the best piece of like modernist literature, absurdism, and like political commentary I've ever read in my entire life. That's out there in general. I mean, I'm like a second year in uni. I don't think I've read everything to say that, but like, still. And it just speaks so much. There's so much commentary in this book, and there's so many like deep passages that just stuck with me and spoke so much. One of the things I loved while reading this book, which I realized I'm like shaking around everywhere now. One of the things I loved while reading Gravity's Rainbow was the fact that there was this Reddit page that I was following along with that was like a little book club, and every week a group of people would read the book and then discuss the book, and I loved it. Oh my god, the amount of analysis that went into this, because Thomas Pynchon is like notoriously a hard author to understand. He's dense, he has big themes, he leaves a lot to vagueness, and so reading with this like book club and having everyone dissect each chapter was the most amazing thing. It made reading this just like 100 times more enjoyable. I remember I would just go home and I just like read. Like I have like a bunch of, I like dog ear my pages that have quotes, but I have so many, and I just go home and I would just read. I was like working, reading. I wasn't doing anything else. Another thing I will say about this book is it also widened my taste in literature. It made me want to read more postmodernist texts and anti-war texts. Also just more like absurd, like Camus and that kind of jazz. One thing about this book that I've said, and I will continue to say, is ever since I read this, I have been looking for this book in everything else I have read so far. Every time I pick up another book, I look for parts of this there, or I find parts of it there. It's one of those books that just feels like the god of all books. Like, it has everything in it, and it's just so amazing and well executed that I just want to read it again. It's a bit thick to read again now. Maybe I'll come back to it in a few years' time, but I recommend. 10 out of 10. Such a good book. Although I will say, content warning, it does have some really intense themes. I recommend looking up like trigger warnings before you read, because there is quite a bit in there and it can be quite disgusting and crude. Although that is the point, it can be a lot. It is a lot at times. There are moments in this book where I had to like physically throw it like away. Like, what was that doctor's name? Hold on. Anyone who's read this book knows the scene I'm talking about with Bianca. I think it's Bianca. I can't remember her name. It's a tough read, but it's worth reading. Also, if you want me to make a video just on this book, I'm totally down to. There's so much I have to say, although I don't think I can even like cover the surface level in a video because there's just so much to say. I like to give it a shot. Hey, the third? Yes. So the third and final book / series that has dramatically altered my life is something I only recently read and just finished, and it is Good Night Pun Pun by Inio Asano. It is a series. I think it's 7 parts. I have the whole series if you guys want to have a look. It's like a coming of age story, and it follows this guy Pan Pan, who's this little bird creature here. Although everyone else in the manga is like people, you can kind of see there's our little bird man, and everyone is like a person except for his family. Hi, me again. I should clarify, he is also a person, like he isn't like a creature in this. The author just decides to depict him as this little abstract chicken man. That's what I like to call him anyway. Which I think is just such an interesting premise, and it's just like an interesting art choice. But yes, he is not a chicken, he is human. Which is really interesting, and I really love the way that they do that, like symbolism. It's such a beautiful series that covers childhood, innocence, love, loss, growing up. It captures it all, and it's so brilliant in the way that it executes its story, because you follow Pan Pan from when he's in primary school, this little guy, and then you follow him as he grows up and enters university, becomes an adult, and it's just so interesting to follow a character from like basically grade school, or like this would be like a grade prep maybe, I think, in Australia, but like a child, you follow him as a little child until he's a teenager and then much older. It's so interesting to watch him develop, and I don't want to spoil it, but I think it's kind of comparable to BoJack Horseman in the way that the characters function. I hope I didn't give anything too much away, but it's just such a good book, and I'm so glad I picked it up. I don't normally read manga. This is like something I don't normally pick up on, but I saw this in a Colorless Wonderland video, who, shout out, love this guy. He does such good videos on BookTube, and he mentioned it, and I said, oh, I might buy it. I didn't even watch the whole video before I bought it, because I was already in the shop. I was eating my lunch, and I was like, yeah, why not? And I just read it, and I was obsessed, and I just have read the whole thing. I've like zoomed through it. It's so good. It truly is like one of the saddest things I have read, though. Not really the first volume, but definitely the outer ones, like the 5 to 7 can be a bit rough. I do recommend, if you do want to read this, don't read it when you're already in a bad mental state. I had to take multiple breaks because of my mental health while reading this. It is not easy on the brain, but if you can handle it, I think it's just such a valuable read to have, and it's just such a beautiful story. Another thing about Pan Pan is that it made me appreciate manga as a medium more. I mean, I'd never really read it before. I think I read like Attack on Titan when I was in year 7, but I never really took manga that seriously. I always thought, oh, okay, like maybe it's not for me. I'm more of a lit reader. But I now know that you can get so much of the same themes, and you can portray it in such a different and fun way, that manga is completely worth my time. I don't know why I didn't start sooner. I definitely want to pick up some more soon. I'm just glad that I finally got to read a good manga as my first manga officially. I wouldn't count Attack on Titan, because I like read like 5 pages. But I'm so glad this was my beginner, and I definitely want to explore the medium more. And also just, it has such a beautiful art style. Like, I also am really into art. I love to draw, I love to paint. This is a painting of my dog I did in the corner. But yeah, I just love his art style. It's just so beautiful, and every panel is just done so well. It's honestly shocking to look at, because there's just so much detail in every single page. It's truly beautiful. Well, that's it for today. I only covered 3 books. I just want to start off small. Maybe I'll make another video of some more, but those are like the 3 main books that I think have really just had the biggest impact on me in my like literary career. Let me know in the comments if any of these books hit you in the same way, or if you now want to read them after watching this, or if you have read them, what you thought about them. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Also, any recommendations you guys have that really impacted you. I just want to read as much as I can, and I love getting recommendations all the time. Thank you for watching. Hopefully I'll post soon. We'll see.